Hi, everybody. It's Joe Chaffee here on this Thursday night, the 29th of November, 2018. And in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, it's going to be a day the folks there are going to remember. Some of them may be on our live stream tonight watching. And you guys are really having a rough time with this storm. I saw where there's I believe 250,000 people are out of power, without power in Nova Scotia. And you've got some heavy snows going on in and throughout New Brunswick. In Newfoundland, there was a lot of wind damage. In fact, I put it up for Patreon members. You can check it out later, but I did put up a link to just a roof literally getting ripped off of a building. And it looked like it was being peeled off. It's just very impressive. The storm really has been a powerhouse. Whenever you see anything that resembles a 950 low, 950-ish low, where we were talking yesterday, that's the equivalent of a almost about a Category 3 hurricane. You're talking some serious stuff here. I got the full disc loop up, and you can see it here. The very impressive. This is just really, the satellite signature on this is extremely impressive. The rotation is so evident. It's kind of like a perfect swirl there. It is reacting to the big blocking high that's in Labrador, so it's actually come to a grinding halt, and it's eventually just going to go southeast and east later tonight and on Friday. So it is going to get out of the way, but we still have some big issues going on with regards to wind, rain, and heavy snow. There's been a considerable amount of snow in New Brunswick and in the Highlands back through Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and so on, from what I saw from some of the observations. And those of you who are watching from Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, if you jump in on the chat board and let us know what you got and what you've been through. I did see a couple of comments from last night's Facebook, last night's YouTube. Julianne Steele commented about it's just not good. This was a very, very rough situation indeed. The satellite also has, you'll notice, another very strong system coming into California right now, and they're getting heavy rains and snows there with a rather strong system moving inland, and that's going to be the driver of weather in the U.S., the plains through the upper Midwest and the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic going through the weekend. And that system also is going to play a big role in the picture for next week. In terms of what's going on across the U.S. Now, we've got winter storm watches and warnings. I'm just going to make this a little bit wider so we can get a full picture. Winter storm watches and are up for, from southern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin, Iowa, and they'll probably get extended into Wisconsin during tomorrow morning. You've got warnings already posted for a large portion of central Nebraska and southern South Dakota, and the watches go all the way up northwestward through Montana on up toward the Canadian border. We also have out in the west a number of winter storm warnings out from southern Oregon down through northeastern and throughout much of eastern California in the mountains. Winter weather advisories in extreme northwestern Nevada. We've got a peppering of winter weather advisories up now for Utah, Arizona, northern Arizona, down into northwestern New Mexico, and on up through the western part of Colorado. So that's the California system that is coming in. In the meantime, I'm going to see if I can get I want to go out to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. Let me see if I can. We can see the temperature plots here at the moment, but I want to see if I can get the winds up. So let me give that a try. Let me put that back on. We'll switch to wind. Okay. We'll put up. I'll put up wind gusts. Okay, good. We did get it. Excellent. And let me put the ob density so we can get a few more. There's not a whole lot of stations that report up that report on this map outside of the U.S. So it is a bit sparse between. We got a lot of distance here, and so you're not really knowing what's going on in between. So we'll do the best we can, and we are probably going to see that we're past peak. That 59 is probably Sable Island out in well offshore. Wind gusts right now, Yarmouth at 26, Halifax gusting to 37, 46 at Sydney. I did notice earlier today there were some gusts into the 60s here on the southern part of Newfoundland, Channel Port au Basque. We got one ob here. I don't know from what station that's from, and really that's been it. So it's possible that we're just not getting the information coming out because of power outages or whatever else is going on. So the reports are definitely few and far between. But when I last looked a couple of hours ago, the numbers in terms of the winds were very impressive. So this system definitely living up to what the models were saying. And I think the NAM probably did a better job with the snow area. Here's how it looks right now. So the pressure has reached its peak. It was down to about mid 950s, might have even gotten a bit lower than that. And you can see where the low center is. It's to the east of the easternmost part of Nova Scotia and south of Newfoundland. And it's going to, it was trying to move northward, and it just, because of that blocking high to the north, and you can see it here, big high up in northern Labrador there, just pressing down, and both at the surface and aloft, by the way. So it's come to a grinding halt, and now it's going to get pushed southeast and then eastward out into the open waters of the Atlantic as it begins to weaken. Meanwhile, the gradient has, the gradient here where I am has finally relaxed enough. We're actually seeing some stations in New Jersey at the last hour reporting calm winds and clear skies, so we even have some radiational cooling happening. The wind was just cranking here all day yesterday, came down somewhat last night, and even today the wind was busy east of New York City into southern New England with some gusts into the 30s, but the trend is down with that big storm beginning to starting its eastward move, and the high is pushing in now. The high center sitting over western Maryland, and overnight you're going to see that high move toward the northeast. So we're going to get completely out of the gradient. In the meantime, starting to set the table a bit for the next system out in the plains, because you've got low pressure coming in to California here, north of San Francisco, a big occluded front, and that sweeps down into Southern California. We even have severe weather issues, believe it or not, and I'll show you on the map in just a second. There's a weak system here back through the plains. That's going to be coming eastward toward out my neck of the woods, eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, and there might be a little bit of weak precip with that when it goes by late in the afternoon into tomorrow evening. Otherwise, it's just going to be a day spent in a lot of clouds, and we're going to be waiting for the next storm system that will be pushing east. Now, the radar, checking out the latest radar, we'll give it a quick refresh here. We'll start out in the west, where we've got all the action at the moment. There's a lot of heavy rain and snow going into California here, up and down from San Diego all the way up into the northern part of the state. So we're looking at a pretty busy radar indeed. Let's see if we can get the San Francisco radar here. Hang on. We'll get the San Francisco radar. This is all National Weather Service stuff that you can find on weather.gov. So we do have waves of heavy rains that have moved inland, and they will continue on their merry way. And this storm, as I said, is going to have a big impact on the short and long range pattern going forward. Not too much happening up in the northwest at the moment. We've got some light precip. It's rain and mixed precipitation and some wet snow too in this narrow band from eastern Nebraska across southern Iowa and into Illinois. And then there's another weak system with some mixed precip and some wet snow in eastern Ohio moving into northwestern PA. Again, this isn't very much to worry about. And there's some light activity moving across Tennessee and parts of the Gulf states, and a little bit of action over the Florida Keys at the moment with some of the showers that you see going on over there. So radar's going to get busier in time. I'm just going to let you know the load times tonight on Tropical Tidbits. I don't know if it's a factor of everybody going in at the same time or if Levi's having some server issues, but it's taking a long time for maps to download. So I preset the upper air, and we'll work with that for a little while so we don't switch back and forth. I'm just going to make sure you guys see everything clearly. There we go. So again, maps courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com. So going back to where we were on Monday with this wrapped up upper low over the Great Lakes and the trough that moved through here with the heavy rains, and then we had the shot of very cold air, of course, right through Thanksgiving. So I'm really taking you back here, going back to. Wait, I'm sorry. I've kind of lost track here. Hang on one second. So we're at the beginning of the week. Let me start that again. This is what happens when I don't eat. I haven't had my dinner yet, and I'm really hungry. I start to lose it a little bit. So we've got the storm being energized by this deep trough here in the eastern part of the United States, of course, and this was yesterday, and you can see it lifts up, vigorously cuts off south of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. Here's the blocking high in northeastern Canada, keeping it from moving north, so it stalls briefly and then gets kicked out to the east. Now you've got a weak system, which is really hard to find on the upper air flow. That is a signature of how weak it is. You can barely see an indentation in the upper flow. But now then you've got this big system into California, and then that moves into the southwest. Now the block is weakening, and you're getting a bit of a ridge that's developing from the southeast coast north and west of the Great Lakes. So this trough is starting to swing up and around into the plains. And because of the fact that across Canada you have an east-west area of higher than normal pressures and heights, this thing is going to get kind of shoved underneath it. It's basically it's a blocky look to it, and the upper low just kind of gets stuck over Iowa during the day tomorrow into tomorrow night. So it's under this area that we're going to wind up seeing a sizable snowfall. I think there are going to be some 1 foot plus snowfalls, and this is a long duration event because a lot of these areas are going to start snowing, and snowing for 24 hours or more. And then what happens after that is really critical with regards to the longer term, because the models are having a difficult time with this, and also a difficult time with the overall timing. It's taking longer and longer for this system to kind of open up and move out to the northeast. And this is going to have some impact on the weekend forecast because it may prolong the rain and clouds a bit longer in my neck of the woods. Makes it a tough forecast for Sunday because if we dry out and break out with some sun, we'll probably see temperatures up in the low and mid 60s. But if that warm front coming up doesn't get out of the way, Joe Rayo talked about that last night, we could be stuck. So we'll see what happens. But because that upper trough kind of lingers there, and now I've moved into Tuesday, it gets all stretched out. So you've got all this specific energy that keeps coming in, but if you look at how the upper flow is, it's kind of this gentle bowl that runs down across the southern states and off the east coast. There's no room. So it looks as if, unless there's a surprise, that the Tuesday system is off the table. But the GFS does finally pull this out, and then you'll notice that there's a shortwave trough near Lake Winnipeg, and then there's another trough in the southern stream from St. Louis down to Louisiana. That comes into play where the model actually develops a low just east of the Virginia, North Carolina coast on Wednesday, and makes that a near miss. And again, the problem is that you've got another short wave, actually two short waves upstream. There's too much energy running around, and that makes it very, very difficult in terms of timing. Usually when there's too many short waves running around, it's hard to get, you don't really get intense storm development out of this unless a definable short wave is picked out and that the trough could get really sharp. But it doesn't quite do that. You've got on this picture here, this is at Wednesday morning, you've got a trough that is sitting from West Virginia down into northern Florida. There's another kink here in the heights. You see it here back from Iowa westward across Nebraska. So there's another short wave there. There's another short wave approaching Lake Winnipeg. That's rotating around this big vortex. And at the same time, you've got this wrapped up upper low that's about to come crashing into Southern California. So the bottom line is every run literally, there are always going to be changes from run to run, but expect to see radical changes with regards to the long term because you have all this energy. The other thing I did notice on this late afternoon run is up in Greenland, we're getting what looks like a little bit of a mini blocking high that's developing there when we get into the latter part of next week. And it just kind of sits there going through next week. So the models are trying to signal some energy around the 9th or 10th, but how much room is there going to be is one question. And also, watch the northern part. The funny thing is, we're getting these southern stream systems now, one after another after another. That doesn't seem to be the issue. The issue is that the models are not handling the northern part of this jet stream in this split flow well at all. It is definitely becoming more and more important as we go through time. The models keep breaking that northern energy down. Think back to yesterday and the day before. We talked about how for early next week, the GFS tried to build a ridge up the coast with the two troughs on either side, and instead we're seeing the northern jet completely taking over and overwhelming things. I think as we get deeper into the long range, I don't care what the model is showing literally, but what I do care about is the staying power and the importance of that northern part of the jet stream. And with this little bit of a block here, if this is right, going up into Greenland, that may hold this Canadian jet in place at least through the 10th or 11th of the month. After that, I have no idea. It also, I know those of you who going to look at the 18Z run of the GFS are going to notice that it does some really weird thing after the 9th. It pulls that storm out to the east, and then literally 24 hours later, it drives another deepening low up the east coast. I mean, that kind of looked really silly to me. Oh, looks like the maps are loading fast again. Okay, so whatever the issue was, it's been taken care of. So running back to the beginning on the GFS, the Europeans got its own view of things. So we could. And I know some of you have been asking me about the parallel GFS and the icon, and I found myself looking at all of them today. They're all doing different things, okay, in the long range. So it's kind of a waste of time to look at what they're doing at the surface. Just the takeaway tonight should be that upper air setup in the northern part of the jet stream, because the split flow is working fine. The pipeline of systems into California and from the west across the Pacific just continues. So we're moving through Friday. Here's what's left of that weak area of precip that moves through my neck of the woods here late in the afternoon. And here comes our storm that is going to intensify and move up into Kansas. And notice it just kind of stalls out there starting from Saturday morning. Rain changes over to snow. You've got this cold high up to the north in Canada, north of Lake Winnipeg, that's pressing down. The upper low can't keep going northward because of the blocky nature across Canada. If the block were stronger, you would have seen this. Perhaps you would have seen this surface slow down more in Arkansas, where you had the whole high kind of pressed all the way around, and we would have cold air being much more important here. But the block was not strong enough to do that, and therefore you got this. So another example of what happens when you have, blocking signatures. You can have all the blocking if you that you want. If those ridges and troughs are not in the right place, it's not going to help you if you're happen to be looking for snow. So I'm thinking some areas here from eastern Nebraska through northwestern Iowa, southeastern Minnesota could do quite well with snowfall here. I'm sure there are going to be areas with a foot plus out of this. And then that surface low pulls out. Again, the problem for Saturday night, the rain gets in here. And it actually gets in here earlier in places to the south and west. Even though for you, Johnny Quest, that first surge of rain doesn't look all that impressive. And then you kind of wait for the front to approach, and the warm front goes by to your north. So it looks like you'll have some showery rains to deal with Saturday night into early Sunday morning before you dry out. If this warm front gets hung up, if this low takes even longer to get out of the way, I'm going to have a problem where I am, because of the fact that the rain may linger past daybreak, and then the clouds may linger, so I may never get into the really super warm air. But we'll see. Then we wait for a cold front to come through here on Monday, and that brings in cold air. High pressure builds in from Wyoming across the U.S., and again, with that northern part of the jet stream the way it is, everything just kind of overwhelms the cold air getting all the way down into the southeast. And at least on the 18Z run, instead of having something for Tuesday, you start to see a surface low pop up off the South Carolina coast and moving out to the northeast. The European has this idea also. It has it for Tuesday, so it's 24 hours earlier, because it's still kind of looking at that first energy that's going by, whereas the GFS is sort of focusing on the second lobe of energy for Wednesday. So I think there's a chance, depending on how the chess pieces move in the next 3 or 4 days, we still could see some adjustments here in terms of where it winds up for the first part of next week. In the meantime, another system comes into the west and goes down into the southwest across the Gulf states. And here's that squirrely thing I was telling you about. There's cold air all over the place in the east. This first low rides up to the Carolinas and then out, okay? And then right behind, out of nowhere, it pops up another low off the southeast coast and rides that straight north and northeast. I think this is, again, what happens when you have too much energy and too many short waves running around. So it's kind of pointless. Everybody's asking about December 9th because it's showing up on, it showed up on the parallel GFS, it's showing up on the regular GFS, it's shown up on a couple of other models. You're wasting your energy to look at that so far in advance. So let's work out the obvious problems that are going on with the upper air at the moment, and that issue with respect to the northern part of the jet stream. I kind of like the idea of the NAMS snowfall with this from late this afternoon. I don't know about the top numbers, but I certainly think that in the areas in the darker green, are going to wind up with a foot plus, and the areas up north and east of there a bit less as you get. But still, there might be a fairly decent snowfall of 6+ across southern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. I'm sorry, northern Iowa. I keep saying that. And into Wisconsin, the numbers get a bit less. Also, some action being shown for up into Maine on Sunday, because after all, it just snows in Maine. It's so automatic. It really is. It's incredible. You're having quite the month, even for Maine, having quite the month as far as snowfall is concerned. But I kind of like the NAMS signature here. I don't know why it's got this, though. This part I don't believe, and this is where the NAM, you got to be really careful. I mean, where is this coming from Saturday night into Sunday morning up in northern Pennsylvania and up through the Catskills? I mean, that seems to me, that's not going to happen here. You've got, it's all rain. In fact, it actually produces the precip when you match it up to the map. There's nothing going on. So here's the NAMS picture of things. A little bit of freezing precipitation Saturday night, because it does build a little bit of a high in northern Maine. So there is cool, chilly air that's going to try and wedge in inland areas. But then it just goes over to rain. The big question is that warm front, and there's a low. There's probably a low. This is a long, I'm gonna bring up the paint box here. Hang on a second. Hi.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Nigel French here. Your food has arrived.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I'll be getting it shortly. Mr. Rayo, doing Sebastian Cabot from Family Affair. I can't remember my own name sometimes, but I remember the show references from when I was a kid. All right, so we got the paint box up here, and we've got the NAM model, and this is for Sunday. So there actually here is, I'm going to draw it in purple because you've got this really just, look at where the surface low is, and look at where all the rain is. I mean, this thing is just stretched, really elongated because of the blocky nature of what's going on. So you've got this occluded low back in Iowa and this, long occluded arm that comes around, and there's probably some, right in here is a surface low of some kind, warm front there, and then you've got the trailing cold front down to the south. I might be a little off, but right in here, there's like a low at the point of occlusion. And because the system's really not that strong, usually you could get some heavy rains, and there probably will be some Saturday night in some places. But the nature of this system at this point is that it's just decaying. But that is really stretching. Normally, you'd wind up in a normal situation where something was progressive. That surface low, instead of being in Iowa, would probably be somewhere in Toronto. And there would probably also be less doubt about whether that warm front would come through or not. So that's a big question for Sunday, because if it does get out of here and we can get into a west wind, I'm going up into the 60s. And then that low finally starts to, the old primary low finally starts to get ejected and starts to fill as it moves into northern Ohio. And this is at Monday morning. So you're still dealing with the energy from all of this with this lead system. And again, that is that's what the GFS got the GFS especially, it was the GFS. That was something that the GFS got very, very wrong with kicking it out so quickly. And then to top it off, it winds up trying to build a ridge in between the two systems, and was trying to take that low for Tuesday. If you think back, and even the Canadian last night too, trying to take another deepening low to the Great Lakes wasn't going to happen with this system in front of it. It just wasn't. There was no way for it to go there. And again, with those higher than normal pressures across Canada, you were just not going to be able to accomplish that. So I think that pretty much sets the table with regards to where all this is going. We could sit here, by the way, and pull up model after model, guys. I'm just telling you, it's not going to clarify anything with respect to where we're going for the long term. I think it's going to be a very interesting and very challenging start to the month of December. And I honestly don't really care too much about people's opinions with regards to the long range, because I just think there's way too much volatility in the models at the moment for anyone to come to any sort of conclusion. This could go all over the place. You want me to look at the teleconnections, Scott? Okay, I'll bring them up. I think they're going to be different from what they were last night, because I can already see that there's changes in how the upper pattern was displayed for late this afternoon. The NAO, and here we go. I'm bringing up full screen here. So look at this. I mean, all of a sudden now you got this P&A going, strongly negative, rapidly goes strongly positive going into December 4th, 5th, and 6th, then crashes down to negative around the 7th, and then hovers slightly negative through the rest of the period. Okay, maybe. The NAO, Now, this I'm telling you is going to be different tomorrow. Slightly negative, slightly over neutral, slightly negative, and then it goes positive. Not crazy positive, but positive from the 7th on to the 15th. I think that's going to be different. Next week's going to be cold regardless, so the EPO is reflecting that. And I've stated this many times, and I'll say it again. Of all those things, it's the EPO to me that I find the most important, and it goes very strongly negative going into December 3rd and 4th. This is coinciding with when you look at the fact that you have all this cold air spreading out next week, December 3rd and 4th. So the EPO would at least tell you that for the northern mid-Atlantic and for the southern areas of the Northeast, if you could bring something close enough, no ridge in the west because of the weak PNA, but if you could bring something close enough, then you might wind up with it's going to be snow or nothing, and that I think is pretty obvious with the colder air that's going to be building back in. The NAO also in a neutral position, so that helps to maybe try to keep things tracking more to the south than anything else, as opposed to if it were strongly positive. So definitely cold for next week. We know that. The EPO then goes positive late in the period. I would just, again, emphasize that the teleconnections right now are not going to be all that useful if we're going to keep seeing all this model volatility from run to run. Yes, Timothy Veltman, grasping at straws, I think, is a very good analogy. I think that is, I think that is the case. David, the Arctic oscillation. Honestly, I haven't had a chance to take a look at it. I don't always go and look at it. Judging from what I was looking from the upper air, I would think that the AO is probably on the negative side of things. I could be wrong. I'm just guessing off the top of my head, but. Let me, I guess in the time I said that, I could have pulled it up. But I don't always index. Let's see. Arctic oscillation. I kind of wish. All right, that's the wrong one. I kind of wish that CPC would have better looking maps than they do for the AO. The AO is negative, and it's actually trending toward neutral for the right now, and then but it doesn't get there, and it's depending on which member, because these are all the ensemble forecasts, and I'll show it to you. This is at the CPC website, by the way. So you look at all these red lines here. Those are all the members, the ensemble members, and their different forecasts of the AO. Just about all of them are negative, so it's a matter of how negative going through what looks like the first 10 days of the month of December. So we've got a negative Arctic oscillation, which is favorable then for cold and snow in much of the east. We'll see if it holds. The frustrating thing about looking at those teleconnections is that they change from day to day. And you see them going sometimes from being in a strongly negative position, and then you look at it the next day and no, it's now strongly positive, or even somewhere in between. Again, expect a lot of volatility in this stuff going forward. I'm not sure, Reaver 501, where this ranks in terms of rainfall for New York City. Either Anthony or Scott will probably dig in and look. I'm just trying. I want to see. I just want to make sure we don't have. I want to make sure that I'm not ignoring folks from Nova Scotia or New Brunswick or Newfoundland. If you're on, SAS Rules, welcome aboard. MJM Tree Service and Maintenance. December 9th is your birthday. We'll do the best we can, Michael. Okay. Carl White, and happy birthday to you. Let's see. Judah Cohen, major polar vortex disruption after mid-December. The GFS was showing that for the last couple of days. I didn't look at the latest run. Kind of backed off a little bit of it today. It wasn't quite as impressive as the prior, the 3 runs before that. That's another thing with regards to looking at that 10 millibar level up in the stratosphere. That also even though you got only one low and one high to look at, that also changes from day to day. Weather Enlo, you haven't been on in a while, so I guess you were Kansas City for Monday. It's long gone. The system from the weekend is long gone. Oh, and thanks for hitting Super Chat tonight, Sass Rules. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Jet Fan is here. Kathy Albano from Monroe, Michigan. Welcome aboard. Thanks for being here tonight. Patricia Jackson here. John Curry. Just Nitrovert. Let's go. Charlie Baker. Just double checking. Just want to make sure. So I want to get your question in there if you are in Nova Scotia or Newfoundland. But on the other hand, you might not. You might be out of power, and you may not have internet access. Or if you do, you're saving it for something that's vital and not necessarily my show. Jason Schaefer, that low goes out. I mean, it's stalling right now. It's gonna take a little while, but it does go out during the day tomorrow. Erica Scalise, hoping for snow in Long Island. Well, it's not in the cards for this weekend anyway, but let's see what happens next week with the overall weather pattern. Okay. Just checking here. Bernie Reno did a Periscope, and he thinks the northern stream suppression is overdone. Carl White, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think there's a chance that the suppression may be overdone. The European was kind of hinting at that today because it does more, even though it's offshore. And last night it actually brought some accumulating snow as far north as central New Jersey and to Long Island, being that it was more of a coastal event than anything else. So it would be snow from New York City southward. I think there's a chance that you could see that be the case, and that's why I'm not completely sold on any solution at the moment. Maybe by Saturday, we'll start to be able to put a final verdict on what will happen early next week. But the idea that northern stream is a little overdone, I believe, I think there's a distinct possibility that is the case. And watch the timing of the system over the weekend and how long it takes for it to move out. What I thought would happen has happened. Water seeping through the roads has turned to ice because of the cold. Definitely for you. I mean, with the ground so soaked and whatever's not draining, and now, of course, you get these nights that are consistently below freezing. And next week, you're going to have 4 or 5 days to do that, to have that happen. Yeah, Johnny Quest, not good. Reaver, do I use the ensembles to make forecasts? I look at the ensembles. I don't really use them to make forecasts. And the reason why I don't use them to make forecasts is that the ensembles and all their members, when you look at them, it's all what you're looking at. It's basically an average, okay? And I'm not interested in being, in forecasting something that's going to be based on an average, because when you make forecasts based on averages, you're going to wind up with average results. I want to be able to pick those bottoms and tops and not just kind of hover in the midpoint. But one of the things that they are useful at least when you're dealing with something in the short range, it's often interesting to see where the model has a concentration when you look at all its members, if you're trying to figure out where a storm is going to be. Sometimes the operational might be in the midpoint of all the other members. Sometimes it'll be to the left. Sometimes it'll be to the right. And it might give you a clue as to what the ultimate outcome is going to be. But I don't look at them very often, and when I do, it's at the absolute. This is probably one of the last things I do. Andrew Del Virginia, have I looked at the parallel? Yes, I've looked at the parallel. I've looked at the parallel. I've looked at the Canadian. I've looked at the icon. I've looked at the GFS. I've looked at the ensembles. Today I happen to look at them all, okay? You can go insane doing that. And that's why you know, you can let's put it like this: if you're snowstorm shopping, okay, there's a model out there for you. All right. And that's what it sounds like a lot of the times. The snow lovers are all snowstorm shopping, and they're going to focus on the model that gives them the outcome that they want. And you got to be careful with that. Hey, Ryan Ford, I haven't seen you in the last couple of days. The northern jet oriented more sharply. You think that could mean a coastal storm moving up the east coast? I think if the northern stream is less suppressed, you're still going to wind up with something that's going to try to slide south, to the south and east. I don't think this is going to be something that lifts and turns northward up the east coast, at least from what I'm seeing right now, unless you wind up where the north is so suppressed and it does it at the right time, where you can get that upper flow to kind of back a bit off the east coast as the trough is swinging eastward. But absent of that, you're fighting probably for more of a minor event than anything else. 5,000 subscribers with no videos. Do I use the RGEM? Yes. In the wintertime, I do like to use the RGEM. It's a very good short-term model, and I've caught a number of snowstorms where the RGEM, especially some of the small and mid-sized ones, the RGEM has done very, very well. It sometimes seems to catch a late developing trend that when you're at the point and you're in the short range and you're trying to focus on a particular geography and you've got a rain snow line issue or a precip intensity issue, I find that the RGEM catches on to things sometimes that the other models will only get at the very last minute. So I do like it. I don't use it a lot outside of the winter season, but during the winter season, I do take a look at it when it becomes relevant. Streets in Chicago closed today because of large chunk of snow and ice. Well, they had up to a foot in some places there, and it's been very cold. Wouldn't be surprised. Thanks for the plug, James NASCAR fan. Talking about my Android app. So for those of you who are on Android devices, and I think I'm going to wrap it up now for the night, but let me just really quick. For those of you who have an Android mobile device, you can download, and you're in the northern New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, lower Hudson Valley, coastal Connecticut. I think this works for you best. Although if you're outside of that area and you want to read my website posts, you can do it through the app, because I do post a lot of the stuff that's on my website. I'm going to post on the app as well, and it's just easier for you to get to, and you get notifications when I put them up. And hopefully tonight, because I did actually live stream you to the app. Okay, so hope it worked. If you're here, welcome to my those of you on my app that you're watching from the app itself. So you can watch the live stream, and you'll get a notification, by the way, that we're doing this. So here's the link to that. It's absolutely free, but here you go. You've got the link to the app there. Nitrovert, I don't know if my messages are posting, but here, my Weather Service office, 1 to 2 inches for southeast Minnesota. Is that a low amount? Well, I mean, look, I think you're going to be it's going to be a tight, as always. There's, the line between 0 and 6 inches is pretty tight. I think this may wind up pushing a little bit further to the north. So maybe those numbers may wind up going up. Is there an alert? There's an alert up top on my notification bar saying the app is streaming. Really? Oh, how cool is that? So it actually tells you that. That is awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Hey, Timothy, can you screenshot that somehow and send it to me? I'd like to see what it looks like. Okay, Reaver writing Apple. Well, I'm still waiting for him, so we're trying to resolve an issue with them, and as soon as we can get that figured out, as soon as they respond to us, we can see what it is they want us to do. I really want this done, and hopefully it'll get done. I know it's very, very frustrating when you're dealing with this sort of stuff, because you think in the world with all the technology we have that everything could be done instantly, and the reality is that it actually is the opposite. it seems as if it takes forever now sometimes to get things done because of all the technical specifications that you have to deal with. It's just a reality. So hopefully, hopefully Apple will let us know and we can fix whatever it is we have to fix. Those of you who want more continuous weather coverage, you can join my Patreon platform. I just put a link up on the chat. It's just $2 a month. You not only get posts that don't appear on my website and also the posts that do, but exclusive live streams just for Patreon members, $2 a month. We do those in the morning most days, or depending on what's going on time-wise with me, I might move it around. If it's more relevant to do it, given a storm situation, I might do it at a different time of the day. So you can check it out. The Patreon platform link is there. And thank you very much, by the way, again, from SAS Rules for hitting Super Chat. One easy way to support my channel is if you shop on Amazon. And if you're doing your Christmas shopping on Amazon, if you do it through the link that I'm putting up here, and that's on the description to this live stream and the description to this video, you get your stuff, and out of Amazon's pocket, they throw me back a little bit of coin, and I get a few cigars out of the deal. So it's an easy way, since if you're shopping at Amazon anyway, you can do it through my link. We're a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for us to earn fees by linking to Amazon.com and its affiliated sites. All right, thanks very much, everybody. Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight on Facebook at 9:20. That's at meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Patreon folks, you'll get a live stream tomorrow morning as we go through the puzzle of what the weather models will do for next week. Plus, we'll look at the developing snowstorm for the weekend over in the Central Plains and Midwest, and our rain event here in the East. And we'll have another regular YouTube live stream tomorrow night at roughly a couple of minutes after 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I got to go eat my dinner. Have a great night, everybody.